Ladies and gentlemen, this is one article I was very happy to see. I think it is very important that our kids get a lot of history about themselves. And this article came out September 11th, 2018. And I'm glad a lot of Black parents are choosing homeschooling. Public, private schools right now in this country, they only teach less than 10% of Black history, and that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I reject their history. You know, we need to get to teaching our kids about who they are and who the people were before they even came to life. There's a lot of history to tell that has been buried in this country. And sitting there learning K through 12, a bunch of white history, is of no use for a Black child. Black children need to learn history about themselves. Homeschooling is an increasingly popular way for Americans to teach their kids and other students about Black history. And it is becoming more widespread, says a report. Number one, racism is where most Black children learn that from public school. And it is imposed on them for the first time in their lives, a lot of times in public schools. And it's the first time where they see the white teacher favoring white students and treating the Black students totally different in the class. Because I seen it. I was in integrated classes, and that's exactly how it was. And I think that's way too damaging for young children. And they start that stuff sometimes in preschool. The preschool kids see it. And the kids, in many cases, will come home and tell their parents that they notice how the teacher is totally different with the white students and the Black students. And they see it, and they do it blatantly. It's done blatantly, ladies and gentlemen. They want your kids to notice it. And being that we don't want that kind of stuff taught to our children, then it is time for you to take control over their education, so that they don't leave that kind of footprint on any more generations that come into being in our community. We can stop that mess, but you got to be willing to step up to the plate and not accept this treatment one way for this group, treatment for the other group. We can break the cycle through homeschooling. That's how you break it. You X those teachers out of the equation altogether. You take control. Now they can't push that kind of stuff on your children. They don't get to spend day after day after day treating your child a whole different way. Okay, now you've taken the power away from them and you put it back in your hands. And that's what's really important. So they don't sit and teach your kid any more institutional racism ever again. Okay, one of the reasons many parents turn to homeschooling, in which they create their own curriculums, is to provide kids with a more comprehensive education about Black history, NBC News reported. U.S. history classrooms in public schools spend a limited amount of time on African American history, less than 10% of total course hours. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. No, we should never accept that. According to a 2015 study cited in a research paper released by the National Council on Social Studies last year. All right, so here's a tweet Fed up with the lack of Black history taught in schools, African American parents are increasingly opting to homeschool their children. NBC. Um, African American children, all right, so African Americans and homeschooling, a way of freedom. More African American families, particularly in the South, are homeschooling because of the lack of Black history in public schools. I was reading an article, it must have been like around 2013, 2014, somewhere around there. A lot of children in Louisiana were being homeschooled to the point where they were begging the children to come back to public school because it was putting the teachers out of work. And they were like, okay, we're going to change the curriculum and, we're going to do, well, you weren't willing to do that before. Okay, what's up with this jump into action when people start pulling their Black children out of school? You weren't willing to do that before. You weren't giving a damn when they were getting a whole bunch of white history and hardly no Black history. You didn't care. But see, now it's impacting their jobs. Now they want to jump up. Okay, we'll work with you. Get out of here. Get out of here. And I, and I had even wrote an article and I said, no, don't send your kids back. I don't care what promises they make at this point, because if they really wanted to do those things, they would have put it in place. They waited until you react. Now, all of a sudden, it's okay to put those things into the curriculum? The hell with you. Screw you and your schools. Some schools may also only cover some, not all, of the Black history facts and moments that parents feel children should know. Schools might start with slavery and go to Dr. King, and that's usually what they do, and glossing over the prominent but lesser known moments. One interviewee pointed out in NBC Sports, report, which is true. I remember even going to school, and see, this is why I homeschooled my son, because the teacher made a remark in class that, oh, you guys were nothing but slaves. That's a damn lie. That's a damn lie. And this is why I made sure my son knew international history. That way it got into Africa, African tribes, what those African tribes being around for thousands of years and how they lived, and their things that they passed down and taught, and all of that's in there. And the resources Africa have, and how the people would wear the gold, because it was so plentiful. I taught him all of that. You're not going to get in my child's face talking about you ain't nothing but a slave. You can kiss my ass with that. You ain't teaching nobody under my roof no crap like that. So I say you keep your curriculum, and Black people, you teach your kids the history and things they need to know that are more geared towards a Black child and Black children in school. We don't need their curriculum. Their curriculum is of no use to us. And their curriculum is the reason why your kid in the public schools keep lingering behind. Obviously, if we keep lingering behind everyone else, then that's not the right curriculum for your child. It don't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So if you're telling me these schools are performing worse, then something's wrong with your curriculum. It's no good for Black children. It needs to go. Okay, with parents taking child or children's education into their own hands, they can fill in the gaps and provide a personal touch while teaching Black history education. Parents can also turn to other avenues, such as trips to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, an educational space that speaks to the national importance of examining Black history. LeGarrette J. King, author of the National Council of Social Studies research paper, said, it's clear that homeschooling has become a form of resistance for parents who seek a better alternative for teaching kids about Black history. That's a wonderful thing to see. I hope it keeps spreading. I know over the past, especially 10 years, a lot of Black parents are turning to homeschools because of incidents that are going on in schools with their Black children being targeted more, suspended more for remedial things. And, they do things to try to ruin your child's record or their chances, of getting education beyond, because now that stuff is on their record and it's not easy to get that stuff off. In many cases, they don't want to remove it, even if it's on there unjustly. And I remember the one incident that got me to homeschool my son got injured in gym, and he had this white male teacher, and he was trying to tell the teacher that he fell, and the teacher kept ignoring him. So I had to go off on this teacher and go off on, the principal up at the school. And the teacher, they just moved him somewhere else. They said he's been removed from the school, but, they only just moved him to another school. I'm not stupid. So after that, I was not willing to send him back. Plus, I didn't like the curriculum. Some of the essays that they had to write, I didn't agree with. And then one day, the teacher sent home a list of historians to write about. And this historian list had 25 different names on it. And out of the list of 25, there were only 3 Black names: Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King, and Crispus Attucks. And the rest of the list was all white. And I said, no, 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 no. After that, shortly after that incident, I took him out because I didn't like, it was just too many things I did not like. And we went with a more structure of a curriculum for a Black child, and not the stuff they were teaching. I didn't like it. The books were historically inaccurate when I would read through them with them. And when we got into the transatlantic slave trade, we really got into it, starting in the islands, because that's really where it began, and then coming into the Americas. And we went over slavery in the Arab world, and in other parts besides America. That's why I like international history. And international history will also teach you what kind of culture these people had prior to slavery, where they don't want to teach that in America at all. In America, they want to start in the 1600s, tell you you were nothing but a slave. That's all you ever done. And it's so not true. You're not teaching that to my kid, and it's up to us to, if you're going to send your kids to public and private school, you must take the lead in them knowing about themselves. Don't let people outside of you tell your kid who and what they are. And I think we have allowed that to go on in our community for far too long. And the damage has been done all through the generations, since we have been inundated with a bunch of white teachers, primarily female teachers, that have done more harm than good to our children. And look, the school just started, and you see the incidents that are going on with their hair, and They don't want to let them go to school because of their hair. When you homeschool, you don't have to worry about none of that. You can put any hairstyle on your child, and it is not going to be some school teacher and principal bitching and complaining about it. They spend a lot of time complaining about the most pettiest thing, and that's to break the spirit of your child and make your child feel like the skin that they have, there's something wrong with them. And you saw the incident down there in Texas with the little boy calling his teacher ma'am, and she just completely berated him for calling her ma'am, you know, or, or a teacher tasing your kid because they fell asleep in class. Nobody should be tasered for that reason. And the list goes on, and these service officers body slamming your child down to the floor. It's too many inappropriate things happening, and it takes away from the learning environment. And I believe our kids need to see teachers that look like them in front of the class. I really do. I think that's a very important thing. And number two, they don't understand our children at all. And like I said before, there are times when Black children are assertive. They speak their mind. They will tell you how they feel or what they think about something that's going on or even a current event. They'll tell you how they feel. And white teachers don't understand fully the psyche of a Black child. So they'll take it as a threat or they felt uncomfortable and all that nonsense. Our kids don't need to go through that at such a young and impressionable age. And they don't need to see adults react badly to how they feel and their moods and how they may see a certain topic different from a white child. They don't need to be ridiculed for that. And that's exactly what's happening in these schools all over the country. Please tell me what you think. I think this is a beautiful thing. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, family.